Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here, back with the second card review for the new mini set coming out for Lich King, which is Return to Naxxramas. Naxx is back, so are we with another card review. Haha, but as a reminder, this new mini set is coming out on February 14th, which is very soon. That is Tuesday, and I believe they revealed 10 total cards today. There were basically the remaining neutral cards, the Hunter and Priest cards, and there are some very special ones that are going to have a huge impact on Arena, as normally we're going to be mostly talking about Arena. So with that, let's get right into the first one here. This is going to be what I believe to be the big scary neutral of this mini set, and maybe the whole expansion now. This is Lost Exarch, a 4-mana 5/4 undead with Death Rattle. Spend all your mana, summon that many 2/2 zombies with Rush. These guys look a little bit familiar. So this is an interesting card because it's unbelievably powerful, but it's not always unbelievably powerful. Like, you know, if you play this on turn 4, your opponent just kills it immediately. It's just a 4-mana 5/4, right? Which is, you know, very tame. However, there's a lot of things you can do with this. I mean, you can give it Reborn somehow, or, you know, you get double Death Rattle, but, you know, the way this thing works, the way it visually displays is if you play this on turn 6, for example, you spend 4 of your mana and then you end your turn, that 2 mana is still there, and so if your opponent then kills it, like, you'll get the zombies. You still have that 2 mana, so you'll be able to spend that to get these. So you'll be able to do this. You don't have to drop this on 4. You can just play this in the mid game and float a couple mana. And this thing's so mana efficient that, you know, even if your opponent responds, okay, well, I'm just not going to kill it then, well, now you get to do it and get as many zombies as you want, right? Play this, for example, on turn 9, and then on turn 10, you can spend like half your mana, and then, you know, spend 5 more mana to get basically an Army of the Dead, which, you know, is one of the best cards to exist in Arena. So if you're just a little bit patient with it, you know, it's going to be some weird combination of like an Nixie and an Army of the Dead. And almost a better version of either. So insanely powerful if intelligently used, but also what concerns me more about the card is just the fact that a lot of times people are just going to drop it on 4, and it's just going to be one of those things where, well, if you can kill it, it's fine, but if you can't kill it, you're just going to lose. Army of the Dead on turn 5 is just going to win you the game a lot of the time. There will be other ways to counterplay it, I guess, because, you know, you could like not give them anything with 4 damage to be able to trade off into, so you can make it a little bit more difficult for them. But in any case, it's a scary card. It is a rare. It's not a common, so it's not going to be super common, but there are going to be a lot of games that kind of get decided by this. It is an interesting card, but again, this might be a card that might be on the ban radar. I don't know if they're going to ban it or not. We'll have to see, but yeah, it's just going to be a meta-defining card, assuming it's in. But with that, let's move on to the next card we have here, which is a description of some of the things they've done with the recent arena rotations. It is a mistake, a 1-mana 1/3 with all minion types. So basically, this is a really small amalgam. It gives you a whole bunch of synergies potentially, but also if there are any hate cards, any hungry crab type things in the game, it'll also get countered by any hate cards, right? But a lot of times, you know, it'll just be a 1-mana 1/3, which is fine, a decent 1-drop, but not something you're going to be crazy about. So with that, let's just move on to a more interesting card, I guess, which is Darkfallen Shadow. 3-mana 3/3 undead with Rush. This is a common, you're going to be seeing it a lot, and has Mana Thirst 6, gain Reborn. Basically, starting on turn 6, this is not just a 3-mana 3/3 Rush. A 3-mana 3/3 Rush is like okay, right? A 3/3 Rush with tradable is a pretty good card. 3/3 Rush is playable, but with Reborn, essentially this thing becomes a multi-shot, right? Or you can value trade something and then you have basically like a Scarlet Crusader or something like that, right? It becomes very efficient starting on turn 6, but before that it's also okay, and Rush is good. So this is going to be, you know, not a crazy card for Arena, but a solid card. You're going to be seeing it all over the place. You probably want to be thinking about specifically that starting on turn 6, this will be activated. You might want to, you know, not play right into that breakpoint. Definitely a card that's going to have a lot of impact on the Arena meta. Now let's move on to the last neutral card here, which is a giant legendary, Thaddeus Monstrosity, one of the cards for the key art of this expansion. 10 mana, 11/11 undead with Taunt, and your odd cost cards cost 1. swaps polarity each turn. So what that means is, you know, depending on every other turn, either it's your odd cost cards or your even cost cards. You assume a lot of the time this is just going to be a 10 mana 11/11. It's going to be a very high power level rotation, and generally speaking, if you can't kill a giant taunt, you're going to lose anyway. This effect will just make it even more likely that you just lose immediately. But again, like, you know, in Arena, you're probably not cheating this out or having any weird combos with it, so it's just gonna be a giant taunt minion. And like a 10 mana 10/10 taunt is actually a really bad card, so realistically this isn't going to be that much better most of the time. So yeah, you know, a card that sometimes you're going to lose to, but realistically, if you're going to lose to this, you probably would have lost to pretty much any other big card in the game. So not going to be super impactful for Arena. Definitely going to be something that's going to be broken in Standard with Guff and other types of combos I can imagine, but we'll have to see about that. With that is it for all the neutrals. Let's move on to the priest cards here. The first one, I think the most impactful for Arena, is going to be Cannibalize. This is a 4-mana shadow spell, rare, destroy a minion, restore its health to all friendly characters. So this is another one of those power crept assassinate type cards. Compared to some of the other ones, you know, like, you know, the Righteous Defense or Twisted Tether type thing where you get a hand buff that it depends on how quickly you can use it, but you'll always get value. This is a slightly different effect. It's restoring health to all friendly characters. That includes your face, so you will be able to heal your face. Very good if you're using this more defensively. And it's very good if you have a whole bunch of damage minions on board by chance, but sometimes, you know, this effect really isn't going to do anything meaningful. So it's going to be a little bit inconsistent, at least in that added value, but of course it's always a 4-mana assassinate, which is good. So it's assassinate with upside, which is going to make it, you know, a very good card, but probably not, you know, considered to be super premium, but a card you'll be pretty happy to have because it'll let you basically shower death. Things with 4 attack is a nice thing to be able to do in priest. So with that, let's move on to another card here. This is Mind Seer. 1 mana shadow spell, which there is a combo around this, which is going to break wild already. They're probably gonna have to ban something for that. Basically, you can play the test subject, give it reborn, and Mind Seer it, use the spell discount, and you just kill your opponent in 1 turn starting on turn 3. So they're gonna have to do something about that for a while. But as far as Arena is concerned, I mean, this is 1 mana deal 2 to a minion, which is not great because, you know, Holy Smite is not even... Holy Smite's a good card, but it's not an amazing card, and this is worse. But you get to do 3 damage to the enemy hero, which if you are an aggressive deck, that's great and all, but I mean, a lot of priest decks, you know, people play priest to try to be control, and then you don't really care, right? So this probably isn't going to be that great, but if you happen to be going for some kind of an aggressive shadow priest, which there will be, I'm sure, constructed decks built around that too. If you're doing that in Arena, which is very possible, then this will probably be an okay addition, right? But it's a little bit weird because keep in mind, like, even if you top deck this, if there's nothing with 2 or less health, you can't even get the damage to finish off the opponent potentially. It can be a little weird, so not a great card, but probably at least somewhat pickable. Alright, let's move on to the last priest card here. It is Rotting Necromancer. 4 mana 5/4 undead. Battlecry Dredge. If it's an undead, deal 5 damage to the enemy hero. As of right now, there's a lot of undeads, but the rotation will be changing to more standard, and there are going to be at least less undeads than there are right now. So this might be less consistent than you actually think. As it is, I mean, a 4 mana 5/4 Dredge is already pretty good, and, you know, 5 damage to enemy hero. You don't always care about health in Arena in the same way, but, like, I mean, 5 is a lot. So you're probably going to at least care a little bit about that a lot of the time. So essentially, overall, even if it didn't have that undead text on it, this is still a good card you're going to pick pretty often. And there's definitely some value to that 5 damage. So this is just a good card you're just going to pick a lot. And, you know, there's potential to chain these. They can, I mean, if you had a whole bunch of these... theoretically, right, you could keep dredging themselves, right? There's a lot of things you can do. It's just a very good card, so you'll be picking it a lot. You'll probably be seeing it a lot. This might really be more of an enabler for a more aggressive priest archetype, but we will have to see. A lot of times, typically in Arena, the most consistent way to play priest already is tempo, so this will just probably make it even more so. But with that, let's move on to the last class for this reveal, which is Hunter, if the thing will load. Trinket Tracker, a 1-mana 1/1 undead, so that does matter for a lot of these undead synergies, and also Battle Cry, draw a 1-cost spell. So in theory, this is a very good card, right? A 1-mana 1/1 with a draw is already okay. Drawing a spell is usually better than drawing a card, so that's usually pretty cool. The issue, though, in Arena especially, is that you're just not always going to have 1-cost spells. Even if you have 1 or 2, you might draw them before you actually draw or play this, so you don't actually get the value. And then if you're getting a 1-mana 1/1, it's really bad. It's also potentially bad to just get baited into drafting too many 1-mana spells because of this, because it's just going to make your deck really light and run out of steam really fast. So there's a lot of problems with that. Again, in theory, it's good, but it might be a bit of a trap, basically. You may not want to get baited too hard by this card. It might be better to just pick something else a lot of the time. But if you can make it work, it is great, especially if you have some of that undead activation again. Moving on to the next card here we have, it is Zombies. 2-mana secret in Hunter, common. You'll probably be seeing it a lot, and this is a pretty good secret for Hunter because it's after your opponent plays a minion, summon 4 1/1 zombies to attack it. By the way, are both undead and beast. So basically it's like a much better snipe. The issue with snipe was a lot of the time that, you know, it would get kecked by a divine shield, or your opponent would just play a 1-health guy and then you would waste it. But now if your opponent plays a 1-health guy, you now have 3 1/1s left over on your board, which is pretty nice. There are going to be a lot of both undead and beast synergies again you can do with that. So this is just one of those things where, I mean, even if, you know, your opponent plays something too big, it's like, well, you still get to deal the max 4 damage for 2 mana, right? And it's probably going to be pretty good a lot of the time too, right? So it's just a very solid card. One of the best secrets ever printed for Arena, I'd have to say, and you know, because it's just always going to be consistent. So you will be seeing this a lot. You'll be picking a lot. People like secrets, so they overpick them already. And yeah, this is going to be everywhere because it's actually just good as well. And so with that, let's move on to the last card in this set of reveals, Faithful Companions. 7-mana spell, rare, discover a beast from your deck and summon it. Mana thirst 10. Also summon a copy of this. And so this is obviously kind of a constructed card that you are supposed to specifically build around, because I mean, as far as Arena, this is something that can theoretically work, right? But I mean, how often do you really have a giant beast in your deck? There's a handful of beasts you might, you know, want to use. In Hunter, the thing is, we don't know exactly what sets are going to be, but this is everything available in Standard right now. Like, you have Hydralodon, Mountain Bear, King Crush. Mountain Bear, if you particularly have, that would probably be the one thing that's most reasonable, right? And Neutral, you have a couple things as well. I guess you can pull Red Herring, right? And there's slightly weaker hits like, you know, Highmane that might make this like kind of worth it, but a lot of the times, right, you're just not going to have this energy. Most of the time you won't. So this usually isn't going to be a very good card to draft if you want consistent results. Now, having said that, what's somewhat more likely to happen probably is that you just happen to get this off of a spell discover. You look in your deck, oh wait, I happen to have a Mountain Bear, hey, this is pretty good here. Okay, you know, you get what I'm saying, right? But generally speaking, you're not going to want to draft this because most of the time, especially again in this new Standard rotation, you're just going to have better options. It is a lot of value on turn 10, but it's just no guaranteed, and that's a long time to be waiting with such a slow card. But in any case, that is it for us today. I do believe there are going to be a handful of reviews in today, actually, as I'm recording this. We have, looks like it will be Paladin, Warrior here, Mage, and Demon Hunters, so be on the lookout for that. Uploaded in, I might get this one out sooner, so potentially like 8 hours from uploading this video. We'll have to see, maybe even less actually. But in any case, if you're looking forward for that, make sure to be subscribed to the channel, click the bell to be notified, like the video, comment on what you're thinking about all these cards. Do you want a ban to the big neutral card here, Lost Exarch? Do you just want it to dominate the arena? Sometimes, just let us know. But anyway, thanks a lot for hanging out. See you guys in the next one.